Welcome back and happy Tuesday. We have another great topic this week. We're still living in this COVID world, and so was thinking about what would make most sense and some other interesting perspectives to bring you. So today we're going to be talking about how technology is impacting community building. I know we all feel a little bit of a need for a community now, and so I have a amazing guest. I am so excited to introduce you to Deepa, who is the co-founder of N-Formation. And so Deepa, thank you for being here. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So before we get started, for those of you, we typically do a lot of financial service tech here. This is a little bit different. So let's just lay the foundation. Who and what is N-Formation and why now?
N-Formation is an app-based community for professional women of color. And the idea was to create a safe space, a brave space, and a new space for women of color to come together and talk about what's happening in the world. And why now? It just feels like this is our moment. It feels like between COVID, what I call the racial pandemic of the summer, how work is changing, and just how we're being called into positions of leadership. Even as we talk with the elections and everything that's happening around us, it just feels like this is our moment, and for women of color to really talk about what our leadership looks like and to have a space to really do that differently.
That's incredible. And I think, as I mentioned a little bit, the idea of community, I have so many conversation with friends, with colleagues about what community looks like now. And because of COVID and a lot of this isolation and being in home, rethinking and reimagining community. So how has COVID impacted that need for community, and how has that structure changed?
Yeah, it's interesting. We thought of N-Formation prior to COVID, and so we had some anxiety as we were thinking about what we wanted to do if the idea of an online community was really going to take off. And then, in all candor, COVID happened, and we've been doing calls with the community. So we'll get on a Zoom or we'll get in some sort of group setting and have discussions. And what we're finding is the women are craving safe spaces. Right? You literally see shoulders drop. Right? As moms, who've just run and dealt with their baby and come into the room and just want a space where it's not work, it's not being a mom, it's just talking about what is going on and the pressures that we're all feeling. And where do you get that space? Where do you actually get to talk about not changing between your work life and your home life, which is all blurred right now, and really coming together and having connection in a very different way? I think people are truly struggling with human connection right now, with people that are not in their bubble. And I think that's why community is so important right now. Work is completely changed, and I'm not sure it's going to go back to how it was. So the sense of community and where you find teams and where you find support, that has really, I think, changed a lot in the last 12 months.
Absolutely. And I think you hit on a key point there. It's really being about purposeful of taking that time and making those connections. So when you think about the future of N-Formation, what excites you the most?
What excites me the most is just the differences in the women that we're pulling together. So we were very intentional. My business partner, Ragatis, and I were two women who spent time in corporate. I spent 22 years. She spent 20 years ago, right? So very different perspectives. She's a Black woman. I'm Indian. We just have different perspectives. But this idea that it's a time for women of color to come together feels very new and different, right? We're seeing lots of spaces where maybe Indian women are coming together or Black women are coming together, but there isn't a space where I'm seeing all of us come together and talking about our collective power. And although I feel like that's really being developed right now, and we're sifting through the rubble and figuring out what new structures are going to emerge in the future, because I think we're in a place where structures are starting to show up that they're not working for all of us, right? And what comes next is still being defined. I think what makes it exciting is that we're coming together and having conversations about what is possible. And it's such a different variety of women across all kinds of industries, at pretty senior levels. And that doesn't happen all the time. You don't usually get finance women with, consulting women with lawyers in a room having a conversation that's very shared across the country even, right? So that's what feels different.
So that's incredible. And the networking component of that, and the fact that you're having, like you said, there may have been some of these groups before, specifically for lawyers, or the fact that they're all coming together in one room is where I definitely see the real value. And that's what you start noticing, you're only as powerful as your network in many cases. You could be extremely intelligent, but you need those other components to get that next thing. And that's where I love what you're doing, and I think it's going to be have a really big impact, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So thank you so much, Deepa. I appreciate you taking the time. For all of you, you can find more about Deepa and information below. As always, you will have all of their contact info down there. You'll hear more about Deepa's thoughts on the space and where there are opportunities moving forward outside of this short conversation. And we look forward so much to seeing you again next week. Until then, stay safe.